At the Clive Barker Podcast, longtime fans Ryan and Jose interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. In episode 480, Ryan and Jose chat with Roy Robbins of Bad Moon Books about being a book collector and publisher of Clive's The Adventures of Maximillian, Bacchus, and His Traveling Circus. Please note, in the beginning, there was a short period where my sound had been cut out, so we edited it the best we could. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over his Pinterest page and commissioning a painting of your own. For commissions, Don requires no money down, and there will be no obligation on your part. You can also head over to the Etsy shop to buy one of his books, like A Chimney Sweep's Tale, Celebrate Imagination, or The Imaginaries. Follow the link in the show notes, or click on the side banner, and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Check out his paintings The Wink and The Innocent on Facebook. Also check out his newest video on YouTube detailing the best cutlery gallery prints or art photos. We recently made this video public from our Patreon exclusive playlist. Let's welcome our other sponsor, Ed Martinez, and his YouTube channel. Lots of great special effects videos and Barker related content. What's the latest from Ed? 3 months ago, Ed and Nina posted a video interviewing Mike Rotella, the sculptor of the 2022 Hellraiser's Chatterer. Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. A shout out to the circle of magicians who make this possible: David Anderson, Erik Van T Holt, Daniel Elven, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, our newest member Markus, and of course Don Bertram and Ed Martinez for sponsoring us. Our supporters now get to see a new article by Jose Leitao, Hellraiser Virtual Dreams by Color Dreams. It's about a Hellraiser video game that never happened. Also exclusive for our Patreon members, a new video from Ed Martinez, showing the 1993 book signing by Clive Barker at the Razorline booth at the San Diego Comic-Con. All right, well, welcome. This is episode 480 of the Clive Barker Podcast, and we have a special guest, Roy Robbins of Bad Moon Books. So welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Glad I got hooked up with you guys from my buddies, Ron and Don Bertram, who I love dearly. The evil twins.
That's right.
Right, yeah.
The nicest evil twins ever.
Oh my God, those guys are like, I love those guys. Hans too, Hans Rufert at Luna 7.
Oh yeah.
I love the skinny, the skinny chef, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that guy, man, too.
Yeah.
We had him on here. It took a while to organize because he's so busy with all of his cooking stuff.
Yeah, he's been having some health issues now. I don't know if you've been following, but I think he's at home now. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear it. I'll reach out to him. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he was in the hospital for a while. He's been posting about it, something about a fistula in his lung. But anyway, so thank you for joining us today. We got, like Ryan said, Roy Robbins from Bad Moon Books, which you might recognize from the wonderful book, The Circus of Maximillian Bacchus, which you can see the little cover for that behind Roy right there.
We're actually
and here's my copy.
Hey, there you go.
I have number 120.
I don't even have one of those anymore. You know what? This is the last one I have, a paperback. I've been trying to I've been trying to recollect my own books, which is ridiculous. I sold
Wow.
everything, and then I went, "Why did I do that?" So I'm trying to buy them back, and some of them I get at like great deals. Others I got to go, "Oh man, that kind of hurts paying for more, paying more than I,
Oh yeah.
publish it for." But some of the books are like crazy, man. Like
So
I
they're
never
completely sold
see.
out, huh?
Yeah. I took it out of print. Thomas Ligotti book that I did, which by the way is the other book out of all the publishing that really has, done well. I kept that one in print, but Bacchus is out of print. But I did an ultra edition of the Bacchus too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
10 copies bound in Moroccan goat skin. And a friend of mine
Yeah.
named Marlene Bonaventure from Bonaventure Bindery did those. And, I got one back.
Oh
And
wow.
here's a crazy story. And I know I'm jumping, but I got one of those back. I bought it from somebody. I, I swore I'd never see another one. I shipped it to a guy overseas. It got lost.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah,
no.
he was so bummed.
oh
He
man.
he was so bummed because there's only 10. There's 10.
Yeah.
Right, right. There was 10 deluxe copies signed by Clive, right?
Clive, Richard Kirk, David Neil Wilson.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
wow.
Ryan, was that the 26 lettered copies that you had?
No,
No,
that's
this is
different.
the 300
Okay,
Yeah.
the 300
slipcase.
number
Oh,
copies,
and then
cloth bound.
there's a lettered edition too that was housed in a tray case that looks like alligator skin. Have you ever seen
Yes,
that?
Right.
I've
Yeah.
Yeah.
seen that. Yeah.
That was cool. I love the design of that one, man. That's one of my favorite books ever. But so you guys want me to? I'll go ahead and start. Give you the scoop behind Bad Moon Books.
Yes, please.
I'm an old dude. I just turned 69 on January 11th, so that's also an awkward age. I don't ever want to be in a group of middle schoolers and have anybody ask me how old I am
Yeah.
because they'll giggle every single time, man. I
Sure.
just want to be 70, damn it.
You're
I
right.
But
get it.
anyway, Bad Moon
Yeah.
Books started a long time ago, and you may know, you guys probably remember, well, Creedence Clearwater. That's where it came from, Bad Moon Rising. I
Oh
Oh,
love
yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
Credence.
Yeah, I
I
love
love
that
Credence.
song, Bad Moon Rising, and so that's where it came from. I was gonna see if just really quickly,
Sure.
I think I actually do, and I just remembered this. I started out, well, I'll tell you, I started out with Dark Harvest, and we're talking like in the 80s. Our Dark Harvest had everybody, man. They were the horror publisher. And so
Mhm.
I'm buying those, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, if I buy two and sell one, or buy three, let's say, I
Right.
can get mine for free. Whoa, right? Then I'm like, wait a minute now, if I buy five, I could get mine for free and make a little dough, And then if I
And
buy
then you can
10,
buy the next Dark Harvest book.
Yeah.
and here's the thing, before I started publishing and really dealing books, I had a complete Dark Harvest collection. I'm telling you, when I say complete, I had a trade, limited, and lettered in
Wow.
the little wooden case they used to do.
Wow.
Every single Dark Harvest book, every one of them.
Yeah.
But when I started collecting, dealing, I had to basically
Mhm.
give up my collection. It's just too hard. Especially, I had a nice King collection too. Every King book that came in that was really nice, I'd want to keep it. And I'm like, I can't do that. But anyway, I started out. These are a couple of the little stapled uh, uh, that I used to mail out to people. This is pre-internet, man.
Oh, that's
Like
And
a
cool.
like a catalog or
a catalog, exactly. And people would have to call me like immediately. Like this book, I look at these sometimes and I crack up because some of the prices in here are like ridiculous, Stephen King and stuff. But yeah, people would have to call me, and it was so frustrating for them and for me to a certain extent because it'd be like, no, man, that book's gone. And there'd be a hot book in there, and everybody would call and they'd want it, and I'd have to say it was gone. But I got these catalogs printed. Have you ever heard of Sir Speedy? I don't even know if they're around anymore, but they used to
no.
print these
No.
catalogs, and the owner of the Sir Speedy used to laugh because he'd go, I'll get you a crazy cover that your customers will really love. But so
Yeah.
I sent these out, and then I don't know if you guys know Tony at Camelot Books. He told me, hey man, there's this thing called the internet, and you really need to get on it. And I'm like, no, man, you know what, bro? I'm good. I'm good.
Are we
I got my
talking the
little
mid 90s?
Yep. I got my little catalog business. It's doing fine. I don't need this damn internet, this highfalutin internet thing. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Then I got on it and it just like blew up, right? So I
Yeah.
had in the 90s, I had a brick and mortar bookstore, just general used bookstore called Book King.
Mhm.
That lasted for a few years. Then I actually opened a brick and mortar version of Bad Moon Books in Garden Grove in an old downtown Main Street, which I loved that location, man. I mean, it wasn't great for walk-in, but I was just selling my internet stuff out of there, and the occasional walk-in was gravy. Then that went away. Then I had all my books in an office in Garden Grove, which was a pain because I was on the second floor. So when I used to do book shows, and I used to love doing book shows, I'd have to haul all those boxes up and down, up and down.
Oh boy, yeah.
So that was a little bit of a pain. But those shows, particularly the Clive, I remember I did a Clive show once, and it was Fangoria. Those Fangoria shows were like amazing. They weren't book shows per se, but
Yeah.
the people there loved books. They loved, anything to do with horror. One time, I forget if it was Rob Humphreys or if it was who's the guy that was with Clive that also was a writer?
Mark Miller.
Yes, Mark Miller.
Yeah.
I think it was Rob. Rob set me up at Fangoria, so I was like the one-stop shopping place for everything Clive, man. It was so cool.
Oh wow.
I had the Giclées that I had from Haunts, like Terry Katz, all the really cool Giclées, bunch of
Yeah.
art. Oh man, shirts.
Oh, that's
It
cool.
was
Yeah,
amazing.
Fangoria used to put out these little books too sometimes. These were really
Yeah,
cool for collectors and
absolutely.
great for fans, you know. They would just be
Fangoria, one time I remember at the LA Convention Center, Fangoria interceded with the porn industry and never the twain shall meet. It was like there was a full-blown porn convention right
wow.
next to the Fangoria. All of a sudden I see freaking Ron Jeremy walking
Jesus.
through Fangoria with these two chicks, and I'm like, what the heck is he doing here? Somebody said,
Wow.
oh, they're next door. But so
Wow.
Bad Moon Books, then in around, I think it's around 2006 when I
In
was in
Orange County?
what's that, in Orange County. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in my office there, it wasn't open to the public. I had a lady that worked for me named Liz Scott. She knew all the authors. She was the one that told me you should start publishing, Roy, because you know all the authors, they'll give you stuff. So I was
Right.
like, okay, let's give it a shot. So my very first book was Weston Oakes, who passed away recently.
That's
God,
right.
I love that man. Him and Yvonne Navarro, love those two. My very very first book was called The Vampire Outlaw of the Milky Way, which is a bizarre title, man. And then from there, authors. I'm trying to think of like the first few. Jesus Gonzalez, who was a friend of mine. All these people were friends of mine. Um, Keelan Patrick Burke, John Urbancic, guys like that started sending me stuff, and I just, started publishing. I didn't take everything they sent.
Right.
And Liz was my reader. Liz was my slush pot reader. She would read it and go, "No way," or "Yeah, you ought to take a look at this." So last count, I think I did over like 130 books, and in
That's pretty good.
2011, I actually won the Horror Writers Small Press of the Year award, and it was in Salt Lake City. Talk about another weird intersection of I guess faith and not faith. In Salt Lake City, obviously, there's a ton of Mormons. They were having their yearly convention there, and the hotel was right across from the temple, and so we'd see them. But you go to this huge mall, and there'd be three groups, kind of like people like me. Then you'd have gay people that were there protesting the Mormons. And then
Sure.
you had the Mormons with like five kids in tow. And it was just a weird intersection of horror and Mormonism and
Yeah. Sounds like a powder keg.
potentially, yes. So that's kind of I think I did about 130 books as Bad Moon Books. The very last book, and I know you said, well, let's hear about what you're doing moving forward. And I could tell you that really easy. I'm basically done with publishing.
At this point, we had to hang up the Zoom call because I couldn't hear anything, and I hadn't been able to hear for about 2 minutes. And I was trying like crazy to fix it, but I just couldn't get it. So we hung up the Zoom call, and then we resumed.
The last book I did is probably the last book I will do for Bad Moon Books, publishing
Oh,
wise. I still sell books like crazy online, but as far as the publishing, do you guys know John Little,
uh-uh.
horror writer?
Did he
He
write Little Things?
Yeah, well, yeah, and
Okay.
I was the first one to publish that. They just republished it. I
Oh,
published a lot of John stuff. Miranda won the Bram Stoker. Him and I did that. Well, I published it. He was the writer, but I got to introduce him at the award ceremony, which was cool. But
Yeah.
what I was going to say was then John, I thought I was done publishing, and then John
mhm.
Little comes to me and goes, and I published probably 10 of his books. I got this new book, and I think you might like the title. And I'm like, what is it? He goes, The Murder of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No, I don't like that. But he
Yeah.
said, we'll read it. And I did, and it was good, man. It's about a guy that goes back in time
Yeah.
trying to kill Jesus before his ministry starts to
Wow.
promote the Holocaust. Great book.
High
Post
concept.
Wow.
that, to answer your question, that was probably the swan song for Bad Moon Books publishing. But I
Okay.
did probably over 125 books. But I always tell people, the normal person on the street, I always tell them, the only person I ever published that you're gonna know is Clive Barker. And most of them go, oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I even have some of my friends that go, who? And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, are you guys living under a rock or what?
Yeah, it
Right.
depends on their
Christian,
age, I think.
but just because
So,
you're a Christian doesn't mean you can't like horror, which by the way, people think
yeah.
I'm bizarre for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pastor
Well,
loves
there's also other authors that I think are common to overlap with Clive Barker fans, like John Skip that you published, or
Oh
Lisa
yeah.
Morton, for example.
Oh,
Uh,
Lisa, I love dearly.
yeah.
She calls me Book Daddy. I published a bunch of Lisa stuff, and I love her, man. She
Yeah.
has always been in my corner, even when times got rough, and they did years back. And I don't even want to go. I don't even want to dredge it up, but there was some nasty stuff going around. But Lisa had my back,
Yeah.
and people that knew me knew that that was a bunch of garbage that was going
Sure.
around. But anyway, but yeah, I love the people that I published. And I also took a lot of pride in my book covers. A lot of the book covers you see
mm,
nowadays they're like, I don't know, they look like photographs. They're Photoshop. I don't think I ever did well, I might have, but most of my books were artists drew the front. Alan
Right.
yeah.
Clark, obviously Richard Kirk
Mhm.
did
Right. Yeah.
Bacchus. Here's a story for you, just because it came to mind. I wanted a friend of mine who did a couple books for me named John Pierro, Pierro. He used to be a Disney animator guy. He was set to do Bacchus and sent some samples over. And for one reason or another, Clive just wasn't having it. And boy, I'll tell you what, it put me in a really rough position because I love John Pierro and I thought the artwork was pretty darn good. But for
Yeah.
one reason or another, Clive didn't
Hmm.
like it. So man, I was like, oh, this is terrible. I had to tell John, it's not going to be used. So then I went
Oh,
with Richard Kirk, who had done some stuff for me
Imagica.
before, who, by the way, he did the death poems by Thomas Ligotti too. his artwork is, as you guys know, the artwork in Bacchus is just stunning, man.
I know.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Unbelievable, you know.
Yeah.
So it turned out good, but I had to
Yeah.
go through a little bit of being
Yeah.
uncomfortable with the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Sure. I was looking at some of John Piero's art that you mentioned, and it's also very organic, a lot of curves, a lot of organic shapes. And he's also a ceramist, right? A sculptor.
Yep, you're absolutely right, and he does great work. If you look of a book he did for me called Shadow of the Dark Angel by
Mhm.
Gene O'Neill, you'll see some of his artwork, and it's just like, oh, it's just amazing. There's just so much stuff going on in it, just like Richard Kirk. You can take a look at a Richard Kirk Silver Point sketch and just go, there's too much going on here. I need to
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
and digest it, you know. And you
Yeah.
guys, you probably know he did some album covers for Korn too.
Sure.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Richard Kirk did,
Oh.
yeah.
And it's such a distinctive style that
Oh,
you immediately recognize it.
big time, man, big time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apologies if you covered this already when we had the sound problems, but what prompted you to transition from book selling and collecting to publishing?
Yeah, a lady named Liz Scott who worked for me, she said, Roy, why do you not publish? You know, I mean, guys like Larry Roberts at Bloodletting and you know, all these guys were doing these cool limited editions. And Liz goes, hey, you got an advantage over a lot of those guys. You already know these guys. You've been working with these people. I guarantee if you throw your hat in the ring and say, I'm going to publish now, you'll start to get material. And sure enough, I did. I got quite a bit of material. And then I thought at one point, I thought, heck, man, I'm doing these kind of mid-list. Nobody knows a lot of the people I did. They're mid-listers. You know, you're talking, you said some of them, John Little, Lisa Morton, you know, people like that. I go, man, I need a heavy hitter to get my name out there. So I got a hold of Rob Humphreys, and I said, hey man, can Clive give me anything? Does he have anything that he can give me? And then, man, it came back. I can still remember getting the email back from Rob and him saying, yeah, he's got this little ditty, this little trunk thing that he did when he was younger, and he would be happy for you to do it. And I just like, I was like floored, man, because that to me was just like a really big deal, because Clive and I had been friends. Clive came to my Bad Moon Books store, brick and mortar, in Garden Grove, and did a book signing there. As a matter of fact, there's
Oh,
a
wow.
few pictures out there floating around of Clive with his. I had a ball python named Biggie Smalls, and
Oh yeah.
Clive has the snake wrapped around him. I kept it in my bookstore, and he
Ah,
was playing with Biggie Smalls at
Oh,
the
yeah.
signing. But that was pretty cool. That was really neat that he
Oh,
did that
wow.
for me. And
so that
then
was around 2008, I think.
that
That
sounds
that
about right.
the process
Yeah.
started. Yeah, I think because the book I think came out 2009.
2009. Yep.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I did not have Bacchus at the Bad Moon Books signing. He just signed, I think it was a lot of Aberrat 1, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, which, by the
Makes
way,
sense.
Clive invited my wife and I up to Beverly Hills to Reed Crest Drive to the place. Oh, talk about two of the best moments of my life.
I know.
Hanging out with Stephen King in Bangor, Maine. I was the bouncer at a book signing, bouncer, right? All I did was stand there and talk with Steve all night while he signed books. And the second one was going to Clive's house, man, walking around, seeing all the originals, and he has them stacked like five deep against the wall. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? These need to be,
Yeah.
hung,
Yeah.
But man,
Sure.
Janine and I have got a picture too of me and Clive standing next to one of the gigantic Aberrat, wall size paintings.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah.
it was a night to remember.
There's that big 4 canvas called A Beautiful Moment that has all the archipelago of the Aberrat
Yeah.
Islands.
Yeah.
And
I have a
once you see
picture of
that,
me standing in front of that too.
yeah, I visited it maybe when you visited he still didn't have as many canvases as he eventually got, because over the years he's accumulated a lot more, to the point where he had to put some in tents outside. There was a big room just dedicated to like all the canvas. He must have had hundreds,
Oh
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. My favorite from Abarat, and I've got a giclée of it because Luna 7 did it, is called Hark's Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a real understated, but with the beautiful Abarat colors. Oh, by the way,
and the lighthouse.
I don't know if I can even show you on the camera. I probably won't be able to, but Clive, I asked Clive also to do a artwork. I wanted him to do a family tree because I wanted to get it tattooed. And he came back with this image, and my wife's like, that ain't no damn family tree.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm getting it tattooed on my calf, so you better learn to like it. And so it's tattooed on my right calf, and it's just a tree with typical Clive craziness in it.
That's so appropriate.
I wish I could. Somebody has the original art. I sold it to him, and I'm like, I should have never done that. Yeah, those up. I love that Abarat up there. Oh, the Terry cats too. Oh my God, I sold Terry cat giclées like you would not believe, because it wasn't just to Clive people, it was to cat lovers too. I couldn't get enough of those dang Terry cat.
I love those cats.
Giclées, but
and why did you? I know you mentioned this a little bit, that these were people that you knew, and then there were people that you used to collect. But what inspired you to specialize in that sort of dark fantasy genre? What draws you to that? Do you have any personal authors growing up?
I always begged my mom, because remember, I was born in 56. So, and I think Psycho was what, 60, if I'm not mistaken. I think the book was 60. I'm not sure if the movie came out in 60, but I remember being a young kid begging my mom, let me watch Psycho. No, no, right? It's so tame now, right?
So tame, right?
Well, let me watch Psycho. So I snuck and watched it. Mistake. Now I know why my mom didn't want me to watch it at like 8 years old. It was freaking traumatizing, man.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't want to take a shower. My mom's like, "Why are you afraid of the shower all of a sudden?" Oh, I don't know.
I was the same with Jaws. I didn't like to go
too. Yeah. I didn't even want to go in a pool after Jaws. Same way, man. The 70s, it traumatized me, but I just loved. It started with Psycho, and it kind of went from there. And you remember the old, remember those books called Alfred Hitchcock's Stories to Scare Even So-and-so, whatever?
Oh,
I would go to
anthologies,
stories to keep you up all night or whatever. Sure. They were anthologies. I would always gravitate towards Robert Bloch, all the horror guys that were in there. Tales in a Jugular Vein, stuff like that. Exactly. Robert Bloch, Ray Bradbury, I see you pulled out. Or Kuntz, yes.
Yeah,
stuff by the way, that. Dean's a really good friend of mine. Dean is like, I've been to his house many times. He used to sign, when his new book would come out, I'd have like 60 copies drop shipped to his house. He'd sign them, and then I'd go get them. But that's how it started, man. I just love scary stuff, and now that people have a hard time kind of justifying that in their head. I've had a lot of people get really upset with me. I remember I had a book. Have you guys ever heard of Raw Dog Screaming Press?
I can't say I have.
All these small presses that used to be around. Anyway, they did this grimoire once, and it was a book that was housed in this tray case with this ugly face on the cover that was molded, right? My bookstore in Garden Grove, a lady walked in once, and she says to me, quote, "How can such a nice guy that obviously loves the Lord and Jesus so into Satan?" That's what she said to me. And I was like, first of all, I wanted to tear her fucking head off. Yeah. Sorry. Second of all, I am a pastor. Second of all, it was like so bizarre, because like, what are you talking about? I have a book there, and you say I'm into Satan just because of that book? I'm like,
it's
you're
like a
crazy.
work of art. It's just a work of art.
I said, by the way, I said I wasn't a pastor at the time. Look behind me. My pastor came here and blessed this bookstore. Satan, I don't know what you're talking about. I just like scary stuff, but a lot of people have a hard time justifying that in their head. How can you be a Lutheran pastor and just love that scary stuff? And I always say the same thing, man. As long as I'm not biting the head off chickens and using their blood for communion on Sunday,
right?
What's the problem?
I think it's also therapeutic in a way, right? I mean, and also, how can you preach goodness if you don't understand evil, or at least are in touch with the scary, darker parts of your own psyche? I mean, I think that's a good thing to look at, not ignore, because if you ignore that, then it can manifest itself in other ways.
Right. I agree. And I will say this, way back in the day, oh man, I was all about finding the craziest, most over the top, bloody, just gory, just blood, buckets of blood. I don't know. Yes. Yeah. I'm not there anymore. I just, some of that stuff, I'll be honest with you, like Terrifier, that sucks. Terrifier sucks. It's so BS. It's just this clown cutting people in half. It's just, there's nothing plain for me in the Terrifier movies. I get they're supposed to be kind of campy and funny, but just blood for blood now just doesn't do it for me anymore. I like stuff like it comes out at night, and what was the other one? It would pass during sex. It was a good. Not Follow Me, but It Follows.
It follows. Yes, the movie.
Stuff like that, Or I'll tell you a recent one. Have you seen Talk to Me with the hand that you hold?
No, I'll have to watch that. Dude. Talk to Me. Okay.
Talk to Me. Yeah, they have this ancient hand, and you put your hand on it, and watch it.
So like a monkey's paw kind of thing.
No, but you're not wishing for something to come back. It just gets a hold of you. You say, man, I let you in, and it's like, and Drag Me to Hell. That's another one that comes.
The Sam Raimi one.
I love stuff like that, but like the blood for blood anymore. Yeah.
I think one of the movies about a disembodied hand that I love is that one with Michael Caine, where he's an artist and he's in a car crash. He loses his hand.
Yeah. That was a while ago, right?
Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, you ought to watch Talk to Me though.
That's a good recommendation. I'll check it out.
I think you'll enjoy it. And I liked Smile and Smile 2. I thought they were pretty creepy. Smile 2 kind of copped out at the end with the maybe
I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen the second one yet.
I think Terrifier. People are very fascinated with it also in terms of the success of an independent production like that being so big and becoming such a moneymaker.
Right.
But it's mostly like just splatterpunk. It's not really like it's a kind of horror that's more based on gore and shock. So it doesn't really make you think that much.
I want to.
Have you seen one of them? I've never even seen any of them yet.
I've seen the first one.
I've started to watch Terrifier 2, I swear to you, 5 times. I go, I'm going to give it another shot. And then it's just like, no, this is ridiculous, So, anyway, but some of those franchises obviously did really well. And some of them, like Saw 1, was like, mind blown, man. But then they did, Saw 9 and how they milk the franchise,
and sometimes, there's authors out there that become, rather niche. But for example, Weston Oxy with his SEAL Team 666, that was an interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, Wes was a big time, like that dude. He could kill you like 12 different ways.
He was a veteran. Yeah.
Big time, man. Wes was big time. But then he
was deployed.
He also did, Scarecrow Gods and stuff like that. And he did, I think, 2 or 3 books for me.
There's a little story he wrote for a Nightbreed short story book. He wrote a short story based on the Nightbreed Clive Barker, ideas. So he did make one for what was the name of that book, Ryan?
What's that?
The Median Unmade. I think that was the name of the book.
Okay, yeah.
With Del Howison.
Yeah. Del, have you guys had Del on the show before?
Not yet.
We haven't. I flew to California though to go to a book signing of Clive's.
Del and I go way back. We've had our ups and downs. We've had our battles. As a matter of fact, I've had battles probably with every damn publisher and book dealer out there. It's a very tight knit group, and if you do something wrong, man, you'll be called to task for it for sure. But Del and Sue have been good to me up there. Michael Slade or Jay Clark, I love Slade. Jay Clark's a friend of mine. He did a signing there, so I drove up to LA, and Del and Sue were very kind. They let me bring as many books as I wanted, and that's typically what we'd battle over. It's like I'd want to bring like 5,000 books, and they'd be like, come on now, but
So what kind of qualities did you usually look for in a manuscript to publish it?
Well, Liz was the one, like I said, she was my reader. And I told her, look, we're a small press. We have to have an eye for, and by the way, I'll just tell you, I never made really any money doing it. But Clive's book and the Legati book, to this day, the ebooks, David Neil Wilson at Crossroad Press still has Bacchus and Death Poems in print. Those are the only two books I ever did that really made money. The rest of them were, there's a joke like if you want to make $1 million publishing, you got to start out with $1.2 million, because it's true, man. It was a labor of love. It really, really was. Oh, here's a story for you. Talk about Weston Oaks. I did a book of his. It was like a chapbook, and we kind of did it specifically for this Tucson horror convention, right? Liz was going to drive to Tucson with the books, and Wes was the guest of honor, so it was like a perfect time to sell a crapload of them. Until we got the entire run in, and his name was spelled wrong on the front cover.
Oh no!
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! That's like, I mean, that's really bad. You're looking at a whole run, and you go, holy shit, we spelled his name wrong on the cover. Oh my God. He's expecting all these books to be at the convention. And you talk to anybody, man. You talk to anybody. I don't care who it is. Chismar. Here, I'm sort of one of the, and I'm not bragging, I'm just kind of throwing this out. I am sort of one of the OGs though, because I've been doing this forever. I've been doing this over 40 years, man. Rich Chismar at Cemetery Dance used to come to me and say, who should I publish next? And I would tell him how many to do. And, slowly when Rich started to, get bigger, our conversations kind of faded. But in the beginning, man, same thing with Bill Schaefer at Subterranean. He used to come to my bookshop and buy books from me. He just bought a book from me the other day on eBay, and he said, damn, Roy, you've been doing this a long time. And I go, so have you. He goes, not as long as you. But it is a very, very tight-knit community, the horror community in general. And man, you do something like, two names come to mind. Tom Monteleone, who's a friend of mine, his whole thing, Thomas Monteleone, blew up. And then, of course, Neil Gaiman. I didn't know about Neil Gaiman until like 5 days ago, how this whole sexual misconduct thing, because I bought 24 copies. My buddy Paul Suntup, Suntup? He's
Suntup Editions. The Magica edition is magnificent.
He's a buddy of mine. He lives in Irvine. I live in Chino. We're a half hour apart. American Gods was supposed to be the book that just put him, like he could retire. But then, man, this whole thing with Neil happened. Oh boy, he's
Yeah.
he's taking a hit, and I have 24 copies at $200 each. That's with the discount of American Gods that I couldn't give away. Then all of a sudden, Neil did his apology the other day, or
Yep.
his whatever.
Yep.
And
A blog post. Mm-hmm.
slowly, oh look, I sold a couple American Gods.
Oh,
Point being, man, it's very, very, very
yeah.
tight knit community. You do something wrong, and like I say, it hit me.
Yeah.
People were boycotting Bad Moon Books years ago because of something that happened, like I said, that I really don't even want to get into because it's so ridiculous and it was so overhyped. But I sort of learned my lesson though, man, because you gotta be careful who you who you say stuff to,
Yeah. I know
especially if you're a publisher.
it affects a lot how the work gets seen by the public. And of course, it's always unfair to the other people who have worked when there's movies or when there's TV shows or stuff like that. All the other people's work ends up getting, put in the same basket, in a way. And it's sad. I mean, I know that he was going to do Sandman season 2, but apparently season 2 has been shortened to just like a short, 90-minute movie, and they're just going to put it on streaming, and that's going to be
Why,
it.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of that.
These allegations come from like 2 years ago. They just got back now because,
So weird
these
too,
things
'cause
come back.
I told somebody just the other day, I said, I didn't even know about it until like 2 days ago. Somebody put something on Facebook. They said
Yeah.
the author whose name shall not be mentioned. And I'm like,
Yikes.
who the hell's that? And then I
Yeah.
found out it was Gaiman. And I'm like, what? Everybody loves Gaiman, don't they? Apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that goes to show that sometimes you don't know the author. I mean, I'm not putting any sort of judgment on whether this is true or not, but I'm just saying that people tend to create this parasocial relationship with the authors based on how much they love the work, and sometimes they don't really know who the author is. They
Right.
they don't really know him. They just attach themselves to the author through their love of the art, but the
Yeah.
art and the person are usually two different things. So there's
I
always
remember,
that.
you remember SP Somtow?
No.
He did Moondance, Vampire
Okay.
Junction.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I mean, there was some crazy allegations about him living
Sure.
in like Thailand for a specific reason, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna say why because I'm I don't want to be sued for libel or anything. But yeah,
Okay.
you don't know the author based on their work. You just
Yeah.
don't. But
Yeah.
what I was gonna say was, I told you that my Bad Moon Books publishing is kind of over, but I'll tell you one thing. There's a handful of authors, obviously, if Steve came to me and said, "Hey, would you want to do this book?" or Dean Koontz, but if Clive came to me and said, "Hey, I've got something," I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd crank up the presses, so to speak. See, people don't understand publishing either. I say I'm a publisher. They go, "I didn't know you were a writer." I'm like, well, I have been published one time in a book called Slices of Flesh. Have you ever heard of
Okay.
it?
No.
Mm-mm.
Is that an anthology?
Yes, it is an anthology. And God, Slices is the only, and I was more happy about being published in Slices of Flesh.
Was that edited by Stan Swanson?
Yeah, it sure was. And you know who the cover is? Mike Mignola.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
There's people in there like Graham Masterton, Jack Ketchum.
Oh, Jack Ketchum, Ramsey Campbell.
You won't see my name on the cover, but I wrote it's all flash fiction. I wrote a piece of flash. Have you ever heard of? I just happen to have it right here. Have you ever seen this movie, The Bridge?
The Bridge. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Oh my God. These guys took a year at the Golden Gate Bridge, set up a stationary camera. People jumped off the bridge. The opening scene is idyllic. There's people, birds are chirping, dogs are running.
Yeah.
They pan out to the bridge and you see a splash in the water.
Yeah, it's a documentary about people that would commit suicide.
Unbelievable. So after I watched this, I wrote 800, I don't know how many words it is, 900 word, called Paper or Plastic. And it was about a guy being in line at the grocery market and he's contemplating suicide and you don't know if it's real or not. And then, he's going through all the things he could jump off the bridge, terminal velocity. And then the guy asked him again, sir, paper or plastic? So you knew he just kind of thought it up. I could not believe that I got published. I had somebody come up to me and ask me to sign it at a book convention.
Yeah, no, it's suicidal ideation is a big problem, and a lot of people, have that. I would say the last 4 years have been really hard for everybody since 2020.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
my own
mentally.
family.
Yeah,
I have seven grandkids.
Yeah.
And one of them, who's a middle schooler, during COVID just hunkered down and ate food, and now he's big, and he's getting teased at school because he's an easy target. But anyway, did you guys have any others? Do you have? I mean, I can stay here all day, but I know you guys. Do you have any other specific questions? And I tell you, hey, I'm a pastor, so you probably knew from the get-go, we're not going to have to prod this guy to talk.
Right.
This guy will talk and talk and talk.
You have been a delight. I mean, you've preempted a lot of the questions that we had. I mean, I was going to ask, why is it called Bad Moon Books? That was the opening statement that you explained immediately,
I just had a thought.
What do you have there?
I'm going to do something here for you guys. I have 2 of these left, these Bacchus plays. I'm going to send you each one.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Put your addresses on the chat and I'll send I'll send you each one. These aren't signed by Clive. I've got that one behind me. Oh, shoot. One of them signed by Clive and Richard Kirk. The other one's only signed by Richard Kirk. So I got an idea. You two do a cage match, and the one that comes out gets the one. I tell you what I'll do.
We could flip a coin or something.
I won't look at them. I'll roll them up, put them in the tube, and whoever gets
that sounds good.
Fair.
Yeah. Give Ryan the one that has the 2 signatures. He will love that a lot more than he's got everything signed by Clive. I don't have signetures on a lot of my stuff. So Ryan is the guy who loves all the signatures.
That was why I was going to say
I hope I didn't step all over,
No, absolutely not. You've been a delight to talk to.
One thing I was going to mention, I thought was kind of cool, is just that, out of all the small publishers that have done editions of Clive Barker's stuff, like, Earthling or Dark Regions Press, rest in peace, or Fiddle Black or Cemetery Dance, right? This one was an original, right? This had never been published.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. All these other ones were like anniversary editions or special editions of books that had already been done before.
Right.
But when this came out, it was a big deal to me and to Clive Barker fans, because it's like, we'd never read this before.
Exactly.
Yes. He wrote it in 1974.
Exactly. But Dark, Chris Morey at Dark Regions, just briefly, is actually a friend of mine. His dad, Joe Morey, is a good friend of mine. When I got that whole thing, man, I got a bankruptcy thing in the mail, and because I don't think he owed me any money, but anyway, I wish no ill will on anyone, but boy, I'll tell you what, if he was in a room with a bunch of collectors, they tear him apart like a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, but they were a sponsor of ours for 1 year, and then the next year I tried to call back and ask if they could do it again, and I got no response, and now we know why. But we didn't realize this had happened. This kind of totally flew under our radar until all of a sudden we were trying to look them up, and it's like we saw these Reddit posts from angry collectors and stuff.
Right. Hey, well, if you guys ever do, let me throw this out there. If you guys ever do like a giveaway or anything, I don't know that I would necessarily have any Clive stuff per se. Although I do have loose sheets, unbound signatures of the Bacchus books. So, maybe we could do like a, if you ever need books for like a giveaway or anything, I'd be willing to, help you guys out for sure.
Well, thank you.
It was very generous of you.
we often would do Kickstarters where we would people would pledge money to keep the podcast going,
Yeah. And I'm
and then
down
they
for
would
that
get things
too.
like that.
Keep me up on, I would love to see. So when will this be available? Ryan, you're going to edit it, right?
Yeah, I should be tomorrow morning.
Can you send
Yeah,
me the link?
I sure will. Yeah,
Because people
definitely.
people at my church, they don't believe it. They say, "Oh, bullshit. You just because actually there's a work day going on down at the church." See, I live in the parsonage. Where I'm sitting is on
Oh
the
yeah,
church property. We live in
Okay.
the
yeah.
parsonage. So they're down there trimming bushes, and I told them I couldn't be down there. And they go,
Oh,
"Bullshit.
okay.
We want to see video evidence." So I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, okay, okay."
In my daily job, I'm the deputy assessor, so I assess churches and try to figure out, part of what I do is try to figure out if they're using them for exempt purpose,
Oh,
or
gotcha.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, you guys have been great to talk to too. Real easy to talk to, and it's always nice to talk to people. I don't get the opportunity to talk to people that love this kind of stuff
Yeah.
very often.
Oh,
Yeah.
same with us. That's why we do this, I think.
Usually
Yeah.
it's like baptisms,
Yeah.
funerals, and weddings, and
Oh, yeah.
so I really enjoyed this. I really did. I look forward to getting the link. Give me your addresses in the messenger link, and I'll
Yeah.
send those giclées out to you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, me too. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys asking me to do it.
I really
Oh, yeah.
enjoy the books that I have from Bad Moon Books, and I really best of luck for the last book that you guys are going to do. Um,
Yeah.
and you've been a delight to talk to, and I really appreciate your time and your
Yeah, Ryan.
generosity.
Thank you, Jose. Thank
Yeah.
you, Ryan. You
Thank
guys are
you.
great, man.
Have a
Keep me in
blessed
the
Thank you.
loop,
weekend.
and I'll help whenever I can.
Oh, thank
Thank you.
you. Yeah.
Okay?
Well, coming next, we'll be we're going to be doing the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment Disc 4. I don't know if that's going to be next. It'll be in a little bit.
Yeah, it's coming
We'll
up.
probably do a news episode next, I think, actually. And then we had talked about doing a commentary for Night of the Zoopocalypse because we had just heard, right, that Clive Barker was involved with that. He
With the
came up with
original
his
idea.
original idea, but that movie's not even hitting the theaters until March. So
Okay.
we kind of
I'd have to wait.
we really jumped the gun on that. I can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking all over the internet trying to figure out where can you watch this, and turns out it's because it's not doesn't even exist yet, or it's
Or
not
like
out.
I like to say, we jumped the shark on that one.
Okay, right. Yes.
I know you brought it up to me that I used to say jump the shark because it's a second language, but
Instead of jump the gun. Yeah.
oh, I found out something. I just want to drop it here. We'll probably talk about this in a news episode, but I just found out this morning that Hellraiser is gonna come back to theaters February 5 and 6.
Yes, I bought myself a ticket.
Oh, it's already out? I need to buy my ticket. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
yeah. It's a Fathom Events thing.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
I hope that it's good quality because I've heard that sometimes they've cut corners for those.
Oh, it's going to be the 4K Arrow transfer, I think. But that is a satellite transmission, right? Fathom Events. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Usually I
was a
never
whole
have any
big
issues
thing
with
about
those.
with Mick Garris. He went to a screening of the thing, and he
No.
said it was terrible.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that. I never had
it
any
wasn't
issues with
even
Fathom
in
Events
HD
because
or anything,
I
even though they said it was going to be.
I've seen a lot of Fathom Events screenings, mostly from riff tracks, but
Yeah.
those movies are not exactly 4K, so I never really had any
Right.
issue with those. Yeah.
He said they were projecting in 1080i, right? And
Oh,
it was
interlaced.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it was getting broadcast from somewhere else. It wasn't a physical.
Right. I
Like,
think
it
it's a
wasn't.
satellite broadcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But hey, any chance to see Hellraiser on the big screen is okay by me.
I don't think I've ever seen original Hellraiser on the big screen. I mean, I think I saw Hellraiser 3 was the first one I saw in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did get to see Hellraiser 1 and 2 on the screen, not when they came out, but at
Yeah.
movie festivals and stuff.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I think at horror conventions they showed Hellraiser at like Cherry Hill in Monster Mania. They showed Hellraiser, and
was that in an
and
actual
Ashley
screen
Lawrence
though,
came
an
out.
actual cinema screen, or was that
No,
like
no, it was a convention hall,
because I
and
have seen it
everybody's chairs
projected.
were at the same level and everything.
Okay, I have seen it projected in an actual theater, but a
Yeah,
35 millimeter print with scratches and cigarette marks and whatever, all that
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, so that's a good experience to see that. That's pretty amazing.
yeah. I would like to. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna keep an open mind despite what the problem that Mick Garris had with them, and it
Yeah,
may have also prompted them to fix things,
sure. I
to
mean,
make things better.
when was that? A couple of years ago, or
Yeah, probably a couple of years ago.
yeah, I'm sure they're figuring out those technical issues. Everything is better as time
Yeah,
goes by. They're saying it's going to be the 4K transfer that they're going to screen, so I'm sure it's going to look really good.
yeah, yeah. Well, the Scarlet Box editions of the movies look amazing.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so glad
Yeah.
that every time I post about it, on Facebook for the Quartet of Torment, that at least a couple of people told me that, hey, I decided to buy the box based on your recommendation. I was like,
I
wow,
saw that. Yeah, yeah,
look at that. It's making a difference. It is good.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad that people are buying it because it is definitely a definitive edition. So there you go.
yeah,
And then eventually we'll do more Jericho Squad.
yeah, yeah.
And so this,
we might only have like 2 episodes left of that,
yep.
or 3.
Be sure to check out our buddy Ed Martinez's YouTube channel.
Yeah,
It's youtube.com/Ed Martinez Effects, I believe. He's got a lot
yeah,
of interviews there with people that worked in the Hellraiser Hulu soft reboot.
yeah, yeah,
So go ahead and check that out.
tons of views. People, if you haven't seen those, you should check them out. They're really good interviews.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great Saturday morning with Pastor Roy Robbins,
Yeah.
publisher of Bad Moon Books. And I'll be looking forward to his next and probably final book from Bad Moon,
Yeah.
which is Murdering Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That
And
sounds
this
like a high
podcast,
concept.
having no beginning will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog, and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.